All right, here we are. Welcome, everyone, to the January 20th meeting of the Auburn School Committee. Would you please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, let's start with introductions, as always. Down here to my right, please.
Evening, Dave Simpson at large.
Brian Belknap, Ward 4.
Corin McWiggin, Ward 1.
Karen Matthew, Ward 3.
Connie Brown, Superintendent of Schools.
Faith Fontaine at large.
And Poisson, Ward 5.
Brian Carrier, Mayor's Representative.
And Pam Hart will be here shortly. All right, moving on. Consent agenda. Can I entertain a motion for the approval of tonight's agenda as well as the January 6 minutes, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Carrier. Mr. Belknap.
Second.
All those in favor? Seeing none opposed, motion passes. All right, let's begin the evening with public participation tonight. Public participation is an opportunity for people to come and speak to us, whether you choose to do so from the community room or there is a table here if someone would like to join from here. I don't know. All right. Thank you, Michelle. Hi, welcome.
How are you guys?
Were you alone in that room? I just want to make sure.
I was alone in
You were alone in that room? Okay, great. Thank you so much. Welcome.
So today's a great day. A little unity in the world, maybe. So I contemplated coming tonight.
Just sorry if you could back up just your name and
Sorry.
begin all the formalities, your name and
I feel
address,
like
please.
I'm doing this.
Thank you.
I'm Susan Simpson. I am a parent, social worker, taxpayer, whatever, of Auburn. I kind of contemplated coming tonight because I kind of feel like, what's the point? The school board is showing up as, and I mean no disrespect to anybody, as no different than the previous school boards who we voted for change. So, my son's graduating in a few months and has been accepted to a few colleges, which we're really excited about. So he's good. My daughter is thriving in her out-of-district school. She won a writing award today, which is really awesome. So I kind of thought for a moment, like, what's the point of me showing up? My kids are good. And I realized that in the last 2 weeks since the previous meeting, I've talked to several families and I let them know, hey, you know what, your kid is not the only one who's struggling, because a lot of our families believe and are embarrassed and are ashamed and just uncertain of what to do, that their kids aren't alone. There's 450, 500 kids who are not doing well. So I'm disappointed in the school board. I heard the school board vote against our struggling kids, and what I think it's really important for us to recognize is these are not failing children. This is a failing system, and we really need to put that out there, that these kids are not failing. This system is failing. I heard some school board members say that what's a few more months of kids failing? If they've been failing, what's the big deal? A couple more months is not going to matter. Another year of failing doesn't matter. I've heard a school board member say that they defer to the experts, and I'd like to ask the question, and I'm kind of being sarcastic in asking it, but I'd like to know who they deferred to for professionals, because they ignored the parents of this community who are the professionals. We are the experts of our children. Even when we're not doing so great, we are still the experts of our children. If we were concerned that sending them to school 4 days a week would cause bullying or social stigma, then that would be our choice as parents to make that decision, what we do with our kids. But to not even give us a choice, that's not deferring to the experts. Those school board members ignored Dr. Fauci and Dr. Shah, who have continuously said kids need to be in school for their mental health, social development, They need to be there safely, they need to be following CDC guidelines, but they need to be in school and they need to do it safely. The school board members had ignored the teachers on the board, that'd be you, Karen, who stated professionally that if you could have your students in class, that's where you would want them because you know face to face what you're teaching them and what they're learning. So you're an expert on this panel, and you were ignored. The school board members ignored and undermined, in my opinion, the person who has the highest education and expertise in the Auburn School Department at this time. I understand there's other doctors in this community, but Dr. Brown is the person we hired to lead our school department. We hired her in June, July, August, whatever it was, to do her job. And the school board undermined that. As the professional with the expertise, the school board shut her down, said, "You're not the leader. Your decisions, your out-of-the-box thinking doesn't matter. It's all irrelevant." The school board ignored the teachers. We've heard since back in March, April, teachers have said, and unless they're not telling the truth, which I don't think is true, teachers have said time and time again, they want kids in school safely. If you can have kids in the classroom 6 feet apart with masks, then let's get kids back to school. That's what we've heard from teachers time and time again at every meeting. Mrs. Whitman spoke of this. So I'm wondering who our school board deferred to as the professionals, because the experts were not heard. They were undermined. So I don't expect an answer to that question, but I really think it's an important question to be asked. The school board has taken an oath as for the entire community. It's not just for special interest groups. You're here to create policy to ensure that Auburn school kids are educated to the best of the school department's abilities. Your job is not to override or undermine the professionals hired to do their jobs: superintendent, assistant superintendent, central office staff, administration staff, or teachers. Your job is to set policy to make sure that our kids are educated, and you didn't do that. It's heartbreaking, and it's truly disappointing. And to hear school board members say that they haven't heard from parents who have struggling kids, well, those families are struggling. They're worried about housing. I have 5 families in Auburn who in 2 weeks will not have homes. They will be doubling up. They will be couch surfing. They don't have time to write sweet little letters to school board members. They're struggling. They don't know where their next meal is coming from. They don't know where their housing is coming from. Child abuse is on the rise. Domestic violence is on the rise. Substance abuse is on the rise. Hopelessness is on the rise. I don't know how else to communicate to the school board that we need to do something different. And saying you deferred to the professionals and then you don't do it is not okay. I just don't get the privilege of this board. I don't understand why this board is not advocating for children. That is your job, is to advocate for education in this community. Your job is not to advocate for teachers. Teachers have a phenomenal, dysfunctional school union. It's covered. They're covered. Kids and families in this community have no one advocating for them, and they have no voice. And I would think it would be in the best interest of the school board to do the right thing for kids because it betters our community. I'm sure my 3 minutes is up, but I just have to say I'm so disappointed to see once again another school board and another system failing our kids again and again and again. So thank you very much.
Thank you for coming tonight. All right, Zoom public participation, I think, is open at this point. Thank you, Susan.
We have one coming to
Hello, hello. Are you here for Auburn School Department public participation? Auburn School Committee public participation? Apparently not. I think you're all set. Okay, all right, great, thank you. All right, moving on, ladies and gentlemen. The presentation tonight is the redesign of the RETC program for the 21-22 school year.
Mr. Fairchild?
All right, good evening, everybody.
Hi.
Thank you for allowing me to come tonight. So I've been asked to come and talk about RETC. RETC is our Regional Education Treatment Center. It's located at 80 Lake Street. We also have the Success of Students program located at that school as well. Success of Students serves special education students who may need a more restrictive environment, traditionally from Edward Little High School, and grades 9 to 12. Well, RETC is a regionalized program that serves grades 4 to 9. The program has been around since the early 1980s, either before I was born or right when I was about 1 year old, around that time. So that's just a fact, and not a statement about anything else, just a fact. Tonight, as I present, Pam is going to know this. When I talk to my wife and she gives me pep talks, she always tells me to put things in S-bar. So situation, background, assessment, and recommendations. Even though I might got the assessment part a little wrong tonight, I apologize. All right. So the situation, when we look at RETC, the last several years, RETC has not hit its revenue projections. So RETC currently right now is, if we were fully staffed, we would be in the hole about $190,000 or so. We are not receiving, we're not bringing in as many children as we need to in order to make that program viable. We are also down currently 3 EdTech 3s, and we train them to be behavioral health professionals, BHPs. They get an additional 50 hours of training, and that allows them to bill for main care. Without the staffing, we cannot bring in more children, and we're also down a teacher in RETC as well. And so we are also down in the main care. So that's a little bit of the situation that we're currently facing. Like I said, the background is RETC is a regionalized program. We currently have 4 districts that commit to sending students. So we have Auburn, we have Lewiston, we currently have Lake Region, I believe, and Poland as well. So those are the districts that currently send. In the past, when I started here 4 years ago, we had representation from Lisbon and from other districts that came to these regionalized board meetings. Lisbon has started its own program, and over the years, participation or sending students has become less and less. We've also had about almost 100% turnover in the last 4 to 5 years in changes in leadership. We had leadership that was here for a very long time, and then we've had a couple leaders since that time. That's a little bit of the background of the program. In terms of our assessment, there's a couple pieces here. Is, you know, RETC, even though we're as part of a public school system, it also is a day treatment private school. It's a business. It has to compete with the other day treatment programs in the area. So we have, here in Auburn alone, we have the Renaissance program at St. Mary's Church. We have the ALTC, which is at the Old Baptist Church. We have Margaret Murphy Centers all over Auburn and into Lewiston. We have the Collaborative School that's in Gray. We also have Spurwink that's in Lewiston. We have another Spurwink school in Portland. We have another sporting school in Chelsea. And then we have Sweetser, which is in Saco. And these are all schools that we have sent children to. In addition to that, we have the Real School, which is in Brunswick. So parents have a selection. They have a choice of where they want to send their children. And even if, and that has, I think, it been lost, that sense of competitiveness, that we need to be able to make ourselves marketable and make our program strong enough so that we can compete with these other with these other special purpose private schools. And the reason that that is significant is RETC is a step away from the public school. We still have abilities to connect kids to public schools. And so we are not the most restrictive environment in the area, but we want to be restrictive enough that we can respond to crises, but also give kids a link back. And if you're not able to provide a strong program, then you have to send kids to more restrictive environments. And as a special education director, that is painful. That is not what we want to do. That is not in the student's best interest. And so part of this assessment is also, and I've had conversations with the staff. I met with them in December. We've had 2 meetings, 2 back-to-back meetings, and talking about the realities of where we are and how we need to strengthen our program. So a part of this, and I didn't put this in part of the assessment piece, but also to strengthen of how we operate, how we collaborate, how we work together, how we deliver academics, how we make it relevant, and also how we work together in a crisis. And I think that is something that we need to really work hard at. And working in an environment like that can be stressful, and I think that that has contributed to staff turnover. But this is when we join RETC, when you're in special education, this is what you sign up to do. This is the kind of population you want to work with, and you can really make a difference, and you can see it in the blink of an eye, from having a kid in a crisis to having them de-escalate, and that's really important. So it's a great opportunity, I think, for us to link. And when we're out of this COVID crisis, there are tremendous opportunities to link our students back to their home schools, whether it's in Auburn or Lewiston, connecting with LRTC. There's a lot of opportunity there that I think that we can capitalize on. We just need to make sure that we are cohesive in our vision and our mission and what we're trying to do. So the recommendations, and I've said this to principals, and Dr. Brown has given me the opportunity to come today, is because when I present my budget in the next couple months, it will be, and when I present with her tomorrow, it's with RETC as the forefront. So making sure that this program is fully staffed. Whether we can go out and find those staff, and if we can't, we are going to have to pull from within. So when I've created this budget for this next year, I looked at it not just about what we need district-wide, but how can we capitalize on, how can we do things a little bit differently in some of our programs so that we can provide RETC the opportunity to be fully staffed. So one of the recommendations is, and I've worked closely with Laura Shaw, Special Services Coordinator, is to identify at minimum 3 students in out of district that are currently out of district, and to work with those families to transition those students back into RETC. And that means a couple things, and I've said this to the staff. That doesn't mean that the students aren't, that might mean that they're fully ready to come into a lesser restrictive environment, but that might also mean that we need to step up our game in what we can take and the type of students that we handle. And that's an important piece, because we do need to be able to work with kids in a crisis, and not just students that are having a hard time attending, but we need to be able to handle those outbursts, deal with it effectively, calmly, and then give kids ways forward. So part of that is expanding the milieu, what we use. It also then is identifying staff in our current buildings that have talents in that regard, and convincing them that this is where they want to be, and giving them that opportunity to shine in a different environment. Another thing, the recommendation that I have is, and I've already started working on this, is to realign our social work services. So we've had some meetings today and some discussions that we're going to making some shifts in that regard to be able to have a social work team that has the clinical component, so we can meet individually one-on-one with students and provide those reimbursable therapies, but also supervise the BHPs so that we can collect on the main care reimbursement as well. Because right now, we don't have that full capability. So we want to make sure that we maximize that and be able to use that to the best of our ability. The other thing is I've tasked Chris, our director, to work with other districts and try to find at least, at minimum, 3 other students as we head into next year to try to get at a point where, because we know kids move in and out, right? And we're also looking at the classroom, RETC and SOS share 5 classrooms. One of the classrooms is half RETC, half SOS. And one of the things that's happened over the years is that as students progress in grades, some of the students that are in their SOS program are actually Lewiston kids or kids from Lake Region that are beyond the grade of grade 9. And so in the 4 years I've been here, I've always been a little frustrated about that, is because that pulls spots away from our students. So part of that's going to be is having a conversation about those SOS classrooms, about expanding the number of kids that we could potentially take in those classrooms, and then realigning that third classroom, that split classroom, to strictly being RETC. Because even if you hit kind of that, 18 kid maximum, as I run the numbers, we're still running a deficit of about $2,000. So we want to try to get to a point where we are in the black and being able to maneuver and be on more financially sound ground. The other pieces I think that we need to do in terms of our recommendations is working on professional development. And the school has done a great job working with Jennifer Butterworth to strengthen their Tier 1 supports, but also linking crisis management plans to individualized behavior plans for students and putting them specifically in the IEP document. And so every kid has an individualized plan, and that is motivating in some way, and finding what those tangible motivators are. Working on their instructional practices and also helping them to understand process and procedure so they can navigate that in an effective way and use that process to their advantage when they work with parents. And then also to relook at our vision and our mission, and once we're fully staffed, and making a program that can serve the students of Auburn, but also the students in the area. So those are some of the conversations that we've already started in terms of moving and realignment, and it's helping, those realignments are helping the district as well. But that's the focus of what we need to do, and to make the program the strong program, not for financial benefit, but really for the benefit of the students that we serve. Any questions?
I think I have one question. When I hear about this, what would take me to worst case scenario? Take us to worst case scenario where, for some reason, and I hate to put this out there, but what happens to the children that are there now if worst case scenario the budget cannot support this type of programming here in Auburn anymore?
Yeah, that's a great question. The worst case scenario is we have to contact those districts and say we're not able to provide program anymore. And then for the Auburn students, it means that we have to take a look at their behaviors, where they're at, and whether they can be successful in the public school.
Well, if they could be successful in the public school, they wouldn't be with you.
Correct. Right. So, and most likely they would be outplaced. They would have to be outplaced. And those outplacements are full at the moment. So they would probably start the school year off tutoring until we could find a place. So it's not where we want to be. It's not where we need to be. And so
Just have
we're
lots of
working really hard
thoughts
to-
going in through my head, right? Like outplacement, will that actually cost more than keeping the program going with what's happening right now, even though it's under, we don't have enough students in it right now. I also think of it with my teacher hat on. I've had a student that's at RETC, and now they're coming back into my classroom. What now? And that's not in the best interest of the student either. So I just kind of have all these kind of ideas or thoughts or how to
From a
keep.
financial perspective, when we pre-buy rates here in Auburn, we pre-buy about $172 a day. If we have students beyond the number of students that we prepay for, it's $192. A typical tuition to one of these local special purpose private schools is anywhere between $211 to $330 a day, depending on the supports and services. So, typically you would spend about $50,000 per student. Depending if some children don't have main care, it could be anywhere up to $100,000 to $120,000 a year. So you would think about, for these students, it would be around the $55,000 ballpark, plus the cost of transportation, which is typically another 30 to 40 grand.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, babe. Nice and loud, though, honey.
Yeah.
Whether it would benefit the Auburn and our kids to have a system in-house rather than have to outsource our children. And I was told that that was not feasible and that it could not be done. But now, correct me if I'm wrong, are you saying that it can be done now?
So that's a great question. So when we looked at that, we were looking at students that are the highest number of kids that we have in out-of-district placements, which is students on the spectrum, the autism spectrum disorders. Most of them are placed at Margaret Murphy Center for Children. When I look at their IEPs and what their needs are, to create a program that is of equal to that and with all those supports and needs, it was around $500,000 more with the acquisition of the building, with the 22 ed techs that I would need to hire, with the cost of a PhD level clinical psychologist to do the evaluation work, 2 BCBAs in order to provide that programming, because that's what's on those students' IEPs. So I have to, unless the IEP team can say they need a less restrictive environment, the receiving school district has to offer of equal quality. So when I have a student moving from another district, if they have a student at Margaret Murphy, I'm obligated to continue that placement until I can prove that I can provide the same level of programming unless their needs are less. So when I took that population, when I looked at the amount of money that we spend, it was more money to do that. And we even talked about, well, maybe we could take that population and serve it at RATC SOS, and it was still not cost effective. On top of the fact that I can't even find at the moment four BHPs to serve in this, for 18 kids in the RATC program. It just didn't, it just doesn't, the numbers don't match. It's better to take the program that we currently have and strengthen it, and then over time, you can add to it, because it's a big building. RATC is a big building. Right now, we're scheduled to have SOS go into the new high school, so there's going to be opportunity there to serve SOS in a different way, and there's also going to be opportunity to potentially expand RATC if we can get it to where we want it to be. Brian, I know you had a question.
Eric?
And I sort of mentioned it to you, what's our biggest barrier right now with the ed techs and the teachers? Is it a lack of money, or is it a lack of qualified personnel that are wanting to go into it? Because you said and it's like anything else, you have to want to go into this field to do it. So are we short money or short personnel?
I think it's both. I think it can be both. I think that people who want to engage in this work are engaging in this work, whether they're engaging with us at RATC or Margaret Murphy or Lewiston or Auburn, or go on and on and on and on. There are benefits to working here in Auburn if you live in Auburn and invested in the community. So I do think that for some that can play a role. And when it's a tough day, it probably plays an even a bigger role, right? But on top of that too, I think it's just the ability to have a program that's cohesive, that has a clear mission and vision, and a goal, and everybody's on the same page. And I've been clear, and I've already met with the staff, so they know what I'm going to say. I'm not sure we're there right now. I'm not sure we're there right now. We want to be there. They want to be there, but we need to have some very clear steps to do that. One of the things that we've done this year is to take Laura Shaw, our special services coordinator, and she's doing her job out of the RATC SOS school as well, to support Chris and the work that he is doing with the class and with the program.
Any other questions for Mr. Fairchild?
I have just a
Yeah.
probably really low-hanging fruit, Ryan. If you were fully staffed currently and you could maximize your main care billing, what would your bottom line look like?
Well, if I was able to, get
Huge if.
Yep, fully staffed. If I was able to be fully staffed and have all the students in and hit the main care targets,
Right.
we would be in the black, probably 10 to 20,000.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Fairchild? All right, seeing none, thank you so much, Ryan, for that. Appreciate you coming tonight. All right, moving along, trucking along down to committee reports. You have in your packet, you received your policy committee agenda as well as the minutes. Any other standing committees need to report out? Any formal meetings?
I met with the DEI.
Yeah.
I met with Virginia, actually Corin and I met with her, and we have been talking about just kind of discussing where DEI is right now, and hopefully I'll have a little more to discuss with that at the
Okay.
next meeting.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, the Finance Committee, I had the opportunity to sit on that. I subbed in for Mr. Simpson on that one. So that isn't part of your packet as well tonight. Mr. Carey, you want to report out on the Finance Committee meeting?
Well, I'll try to keep it brief last night. I didn't, so tonight I'll make it a little bit briefer. We still have money, and we're still paying our bills, so that's a good thing. We did have a CARES update, and the money is spent or encumbered, so that part of it is taken care of. We went over the earned paid leave. That will become an administrative function that Adam has graciously decided to take on and fix for us.
Thank you, Adam.
The project updates, as you all know, the bids are due back for the new EL on February 9th. We still have 4 that are in the running for the contractors.
Brian, I have a quick update on that.
Okay.
I found out about today. The date is being pushed back to the 23rd to allow the bidders more time to respond to addendums and get the information together. So right now, it's looking like February 23rd will be the date. And I did check in with DOE and heard back, and everything should still be on schedule based on that date. So they're in agreement with Harriman that it makes sense to do this. So.
The East Auburn and Washburn portables are in. We've got the warranty issues squared away with the buildings and ramp stairs and
Do we have occupancy certificates yet for them?
occupied yet. We're just doing the finishing up work right now, but looking forward to having people in there fairly quickly.
Okay.
AMS is 99% completed. I think that the biggest thing now is they're looking for a shade for the big window that they didn't have before, and they didn't realize that the sunshine was out there. The old office is going to be turned into a classroom, and that'll be taken care of. Franklin, the bids are due back on the 2nd still, and we still have 10 contractors in the running for that, so more contractors is always a good thing for us. Getting back to the EL update, I will say that was brought up last night at the council meeting. There's some concern in regards to that was expressed to the building committee, our representatives to the building committee, and I probably will add something to the thing tonight in regards to the schools portion of that. There's some concern about the fact that there's no money in that part of the financial part, and it will affect what goes on with the want list, the wish list. So we'll work with that going forward.
Okay, all right, thank you, Mr. Carrier. Can I have a motion to accept the finance report for December 2020 as presented? Thank you, Mr.
Second.
Carrier. Thank you, Pam. All those in favor? Motion passes. Thank you. All right, no old business. Moving on to new business. We had few policies in your packet this time around. We have first policy, BDEA, Auburn Lewiston Educational Corporation. Information about that in your packet was there. Can I entertain a motion to approve policy BDEA, Auburn Lewiston Educational Cooperation, for a first reading and deletion, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Belknap. Thank you, Mr. Simpson. Any comments, conversation, debate around that one? All right, all those in favor? Motion passes. Thank you. Policy EBCA, Comprehensive Emergency Operations Management Plan. Can I entertain a motion to approve policy EBCA, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Belknap. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Faith. Questions, comments, debate around that? Oops, seeing none, can I have a vote, please? All those in favor? Motion passes. Thank you very much. All right, we have some upcoming meetings coming up. February 3rd at 6 p.m. is a regular meeting. February 17th at 6 p.m. is also a regular meeting. Future agenda items are always taken now, or you can email. One of the things I know we need to put on as a future agenda item is to formally add Corin to some committees, but also to add and I've already had my notes here, Mr. Carrier, that on our subcommittees, we need to add a formal ELHS fundraising committee. It needs to be formalized. So those are my two requests for future information or agenda items. Anyone else have anything they want to add at this time? All right, seeing none, we're about to move into executive session. Can I entertain a motion to move into executive session pursuant to, and I have to get all this out, please, 1 MRSA 4056A for the purpose of evaluation of officials, appointees, and employees. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
I heard Mr. Carrier this way. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Belknap. Am I taking a full vote to enter into? Why am I having a brain cramp right now? All those in favor to enter into executive session? Sorry, complete brain cramp right there. All right, motion passes. We are in executive session. I'm going to wait for confirmation that we are really not on air and our voices are not still being actually recorded.